Welcome back. I'm Jim LaPierre. This is Sober Now, and today's topic is recovery on your bad days. As always, welcome your questions, your comments. What's going on with you today? Whether it's on topic or not, would love to hear from you. If you're watching the stream long after the fact, please drop us a like, drop a comment, give some suggestions. What helps you on your bad days? And if you haven't already been over to Sober Now's Facebook page, please just take a moment, go there and give it a quick like. You'll get notified about future live streams and other content that we're creating. All right, let's jump into it. Obviously, we all have bad days. For folks in recovery, we have a real knack for getting in our own way. We know that coping is important, but we don't always do it. We know to reach out to folks when we're struggling, but too often we don't. We're people who sometimes get flustered, get antsy, squirrely. Life throws us some extra adversity, and we get in our own way. We would do well to practice HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and we would do well to build skills that keep a healthy perspective and help us regain that perspective when it's lost. I often think of an expression I heard from an old-timer in AA of RID, what he was describing as restless, irritable, and discontent. So I know that too often that's the place we're coming from, and I'm always amazed at what just taking a minute or two and doing a quick gratitude list can do for our perspective, for our attitude, our outlook on the day. I'm going to share with you a bunch of different things that I've come across that have been helpful to me. This was actually a tweet on Twitter from somebody who has an account of God, asking the question that's become a popular meme. Did you really have a bad day, or did you have 10 or 20 minutes where you let your thoughts run undisciplined and that led you to a bad vibe and that carried you away? Come on, bro, you run this shit. Pay attention. So we are people who often snowball. If something goes bad, we expect things to get worse, and we just aren't really open to taking pause, taking a few minutes out of the day to reset, and just reaching out to have that quick conversation with somebody that supports us. One of the quirks about us that I've run into quite often is that if your day is rough by 8 a.m., if you're not careful, you're just going to adopt this attitude that this whole day is shot. Like only going to sleep and waking up tomorrow could reset it. I tell a story sometimes about a young man I worked with in early recovery, and he just kept saying to me, I can't get out of my head. I can't move away from this anxiety and this worry. And what I was suggesting to him was using sensory input to get reconnected to the here and now, what counselors call grounding skills, using your five senses to connect to your current environment, checking in with your body, releasing tension, taking deep breaths, all those real simple things that all of us know to do but often forget to do. So he, of course, was he had tied himself up in knots and was not really open to suggestions. And the conversation, he became an argument. And I said to him, look, we happen to be talking on a day like today where it's really cold. And I said to him, if I take you outside and drop you in the middle of a snowbank, all of these thoughts that you're having and being stuck in your head is going to melt away, right? It's all going to go because the only thing you're going to be thinking about is how cold this is. Same guy on a different day. We had a 9 a.m. appointment, and he told me that the day was just shit and was going to stay that way. So just for fun, I passed him a copy of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao, this is the consummate book of Taoism. It's a collection of poems, 79 of them written by Lao Tzu about 2,500 years ago. And the amazing thing about those poems is that they read like riddles. And so I asked him to just read one and reflect on it. And then I asked him to explain to me what it meant. And we got into this actually really cool conversation based on what the poem was about. And when we got done talking about it for like 10 or 15 minutes, I asked him to just check in and see how he felt. And he was surprised to find that his attitude had changed. He was feeling a lot better. And I came to think about that as a way to restart your day. we need something that breaks us out of that spiral, something that helps us to get out of our own way. And it can be anything. It depends upon what works for you spiritually. For a lot of us, prayer works really well. For others of us, just doing something different. Take pause, take 5 or 10 minutes, and do a puzzle. Do a Wordle is actually my new favorite thing to play with. Something that just forces you to change gears, get in a different mindset. Another favorite story of mine to tell is actually a story from Robert Fulghum. He was famous for writing books like Everything I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. He tells a story about being a young man traveling through Europe and working in an inn. And he was young, restless, irritable, discontent, and he was complaining about some of the work conditions that were really no big deal to a much older coworker. And it turns out that the coworker was a survivor of Auschwitz, a man who had truly suffered and been through a lot of hell. And so he had indulged and listened to Robert Fulghum many, many times, and at some point lost patience with him and gave him a little lecture and said, look, you need to learn the problem between a problem and an inconvenience. If you don't have a place to live, if you don't have food to eat, if you have medical problems and can't get care, then you have a real problem. Everything else is an inconvenience. And the sooner you learn that difference, the better off you will be, and the less you will annoy people like me. So Fulghum talks about the takeaway from that lesson being, of course, a healthy perspective, how easy it is to lose that when we're unsatisfied or displeased with our circumstances, and we, of course, have a propensity to make a mountain out of a molehill. What I've learned about myself is that whenever my day doesn't go as planned, which is actually most days, I can easily find myself irritable about that, and I immediately have to let go and remind myself that, first of all, my track record for getting through hard days is 100%, and secondly, staying with the idea of how I thought things were supposed to be never serves me. Being flexible ensures that I bend, I don't break. One of the biggest pitfalls that I see us in when we're struggling is that we have a tendency to judge ourselves, be very harsh with ourselves, and specifically, we have a tendency to judge our own emotions. And this is a huge part of how we can take a bad day and make it much worse. I want to share with you a quote from an author, Ayalana Van Zandt. She says, "Feel what you feel and allow it to pass. Don't judge your feelings or yourself for having them. Do not label your feelings as good or bad, right or wrong. Drop your hands to your sides and give yourself permission to ride out the emotional tidal waves that are sure to surface every now and then. Each time an emotion surfaces, this is a sure sign that you are working through it in order to release it." We have a tendency to try to think our way out of feelings. We have a tendency to tell ourselves that we shouldn't feel as we do, or we should very readily get over it. And I've learned that I don't know how to get over much of anything. I have to be able and willing to go through it. And I have to be mindful that I certainly don't have to go through those things alone. The more I surround myself with people who love and support me, the better things go. The more that I am open and sharing, the more that I am vulnerable about my fears, about my struggles, the more I'm able to receive reassurance, the more I'm able to receive encouragement and support, but even more importantly, the more I'm able to receive and have accountability for my own goals and for what is it that I need to do to cope, to manage people, places, and things as best I can, and to release the things that I'm powerless over. I'm going to share with you some excerpts from a spoken word artist, Shane Koizan, who is an incredibly talented poet. If you haven't seen his TED Talk entitled "To This Day," I can't recommend it highly enough. He is a remarkable person who has wrestled with mental illness and dark, dark depression throughout his days. So the excerpts that I'm going to be reading on and interjecting some thoughts about come from his piece, Instructions for a Bad Day. So Shane writes, there will be bad days. Be calm. Loosen your grip. Open each palm slowly. Let go. Be confident. Know that now is only a moment, and that if today is as bad as it gets, understand that by tomorrow today will have ended. Be gracious. Accept each extended hand offered to you. Pull back each extended hand offered to pull you back from somewhere that you cannot escape alone. And of course, if no hands are being extended to you, make sure that you're reaching out. Move past the idea that you have people who are there if you need them, because you need them even on your good days. Be diligent. Scrape the gray sky clean. Realize every dark cloud is a smoke screen meant to blind us from the truth. And the truth is, whether we see them or not, the sun and moon are still there, and always there is light. Maintaining a healthy perspective and regaining it when we've lost it is absolutely vital. Be forthright. Despite your instinct to say, I'm all right or I'm okay, be honest. Say how you feel without fear or guilt, without remorse or complexity. If you think for 1 second that no one knows what you're going through, be accepting of the fact that you are wrong, that the long-drawn and heavy breaths of despair have at times been felt by everyone. The pain is part of the human condition. We will hold ourselves steady. Be ready, player one. Life is going to come at you and armed with hard times and tough choices. Your voice is your weapon, and your thoughts are ammunition. We have a tendency, of course, to shoot ourselves in the foot because it's the quickest and easiest way to get back to what is comfortable and familiar to us. Saying fuck it is the easiest way out of any challenge. Remember the times when you thought all of this was too hard and you'd never make it through, but you did. We have been through probably much worse than whatever it is we're experiencing on a bad day, and we need to be mindful of that so that we can have things in a proper context. Remember the times that you could have pressed quit but hit continue. Be forgiving. Living with the burden of anger is not living. Giving your focus to wrath will leave your entire self absent of what you need. Love and hate are beasts, and the one that grows is the one that you feed. Be persistent. Be the weed growing through the cracks in the cement, beautiful because it doesn't know that it's not supposed to grow there. Be resolute. Declare what you accept as true in a way that envisions the resolve with which you can accept it. If you are having a good day, be considerate. A simple smile could be the first aid kit that someone has been looking for. If you believe with absolute honesty that you are doing everything you can, do more. There will be bad days, times when the world weighs on you for so long it leaves you looking for an easy way out. And our disease will be especially seductive during those times. There will be moments when the drought of joy seems unending, instances spent pretending that everything is all right when clearly it is not. Check your blind spot. See that love is still there. Be patient. Every nightmare has a beginning, but every bad day has an end. Ignore what others have called you. I am calling you friend. Silence left to its own devices breeds silence, so speak and be heard. One word after the next. Express yourself and put your life into context. If you find that no one is listening, be loud. Make noise. Stand in poise and be open. This is the acronym HOW of recovery. Honesty and openness and willingness are how we get better, how we get through. Too often we place a high value on stoicism and hiding how we feel. We have this idea that strength means not letting people see that you are struggling, but in my experience it takes a lot more guts to bring that out into the open than it does to hide it. Too often we struggle alone, and nothing about that is manageable. We don't care to talk about our struggles because talking about them makes them more real. maintaining a level of detachment from self is too often what we're looking for. And when we're detached, whether it's from our bodies, our emotions, or given situations, life becomes very manageable very quickly. Being dissociative, being avoidant, being angry as a way to cover up our vulnerable emotions, these are all very common ways in which we cope and try to deal with life. None of them are especially effective, and certainly none of them are healthy. We have to be mindful that it helps others to help us. Too often we decide that we're a burden or an imposition, and these are lies that our disease tells us. We're afraid to reach out, and so we make excuses for why we shouldn't bother other people, which is really, in effect, making the decision for them, not allowing them to decide whether or not they'd like to feel good about helping us, or whether or not they get to have something good come out of the hell that they've been through. Hope in these situations is not enough, and you will need someone to lean on in the unlikely event that you have no one. Look again. Our willingness to lean on others is too often very low, and it is the very thing that we need, and it is a way of giving to us what was given to them. And we know that in recovery, that's a cornerstone of what works. Admit to the bad days, the impossible nights. Listen to the insights of those who have been there but have come back. They'll tell you. You can stack misery, you can pack despair, you can even wear your sorrow, but come tomorrow, you must change your clothes. Everyone knows pain. We are not meant to carry it forever. We were never meant to hold it so closely. So be certain in the belief that when pain belongs to now, it will belong soon to then. Be calm, loosen your grip, open each palm, let go. Letting go is, I think, one of the hardest lessons that we learn in recovery. One of my favorite Facebook memes, everything that I let go of has claw marks on it. I think too often what we're really doing on our bad days is fighting a losing battle for self-control. And I say to folks all the time, we can have far greater self-control through self-acceptance than we could ever have by being mean to ourselves, abusive to ourselves. Of course, we don't think of it that way. Folks usually say to me, I'm just hard on myself. I just have high standards. But it's usually much more insidious than that. For too many of us, being hard on ourselves means that we talk to ourselves and treat ourselves the way that the people who harmed us the most did. That's how we learned this. This is how we came to internalize this. And so my hope is that whether it's surrender through a spiritual program or if it's simply the choice to stop being your own worst enemy and be fair and respectful to yourself, that these will make your bad days far more manageable. Of course, learning about different strategies for coping, having a relapse prevention in place for the times that are especially hard is critical to our success. Learning ways to cope with emotion that don't involve using substances is vital. And really facilitating building that support system that you need. All of us require that, not just on our bad days. I need all the help I can get on my good days. I'm fond of saying that because it's true. I always need people who are willing to challenge me and check my blind spots. I need people who are willing to call me out when my attitude isn't where it should be. I know that I have so much to be grateful for, but the way my mind works is that too often I catch myself taking things for granted because they just stay the same. And when things become what's normal for me, I don't necessarily think about them, and I don't ever want to live that way. I want to be able to be grateful for everything that is good in my life. My experience with bad days is that they always end, and what I really need to do is take a step back and take stock of myself. We're always focused on what is external to us. We always are analyzing and observing and trying to make sense out of people, places, and things, and not necessarily ourselves. So I'm fond of asking people, to take stock and to answer 3 very simple questions for me. The first one is, how are you? Not the automatic answer of I'm fine, I'm okay. Those are just ways of hiding. But how are you really? And then I'll ask, what is it that you want and what is it that you need? And too often, we don't know. Because what we've been paying attention to is not our own needs. What we've been paying attention to is not our feelings or not our inner conflicts or not anything that is specific to us and internal to us. Too often, what we're looking for is a softer, gentler way. Too often, what we're seeking are solutions to problems that don't even yet exist. This is the cost of anxiety, the cost of the wreckage of our past, and our fears about the future. Just checking the streams real quick. Always happy to hear from folks and would love to hear how your day is going today. Ken, thanks so much for writing in. Very glad and appreciative that you picked up my book. If folks haven't heard, I have a new book out entitled Who the Fuck Are You? It's a guide for figuring it out and developing and transforming your identity. Through the course of recovery, there's so much that we come to learn about ourselves that we don't like and want to change. There's so many things that perhaps we never had a strong sense of in the first place. And so my book is an invitation to really go through in a very practical way. Here are the steps to choosing your identity, because most aspects really are a choice. So, if that's something that you're looking for, just search Jim LaPierre on Amazon and it'll come right up. I'm going to be signing off in just a moment, but as always, I invite you to connect with me, jim@sobernow.com, for any questions or resources that you're looking for in recovery, and would love to hear from you regarding topics that you'd like to see covered in future live streams. Of course, would love to have you check out Sober Now's YouTube channel. Well over 100 videos there on different topics of recovery, completely free of charge. And of course, we'd love to have you check out our website, sobernow.com. A very affordable service that provides complete confidentiality and anonymity. It's a home study program, so you go at your own pace. And there's 2 different tracks. One for those looking to enhance their recovery from substance use disorder, and a second program for people like me who identify as affected others who have loved ones in active addiction. So, please take excellent care of yourself. Please reach out to me and let me know how I can be helpful in your recovery, and I will look forward to talking to you